Lancaster City Council meeting.
That's Zorro.
Hey, Zorro is my
Yes, your mic's working.
Thank you. City Clerk.
City Council Member, Agency Director, Authority Member Doris.
Present.
Molly.
Present.
Mann.
I'm present.
Vice Mayor Chris.
Present.
Mayor Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Do you want to take the Housing Authority?
Housing Authority Members Harvey.
Present.
Molly.
Present.
Mann.
Present.
Vice Chair Chris.
Present.
Chair Zito. We have a quorum.
Okay, good. The invocation. Who's doing the invocation tonight? This does not look good. Who wants to do it? All right, Fran. You want to do it? Okay, good.
I can't get, I don't have my other chair, so. This thing is not easy to move around.
Yeah.
Well, there's a will, there's a way. There's a way, there's a will, or something like that. Yeah. Let me stand up.
I don't think I've ever seen you do that. See what prayer does?
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Please bow your heads and say this prayer and guidance for all of us. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Dear Lord, please send us your blessings, your help. We help our city, help our council, help our staff. Help us so that we can think in your name. And God bless all of us. And God bless the city that we love, Lancaster. Amen.
Thank you, Fran. I appreciate it. Want to do the pledge?
Sure. Please remain standing.
Let me-
Place your hand over your heart and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, push me back. Well, push me back.
So the supervisor's office has a... Oh, you want me to come down? Okay.
Good evening. We have a recognition for you and the City of Lancaster. The supervisor asked me specifically to personally thank you and the city for your partnership with the High Desert Mental Health Urgent Care Project, because the project manager has told us that the city has bent over backwards to help expedite everything through the permitting process. So we say thank you.
We got a great staff, don't we?
Yes, you do.
Look at that. We've got to up our game. I mean, that's a work of art.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
These are actually hand done. They've got a, you know, it's really art, actually. Yeah. We've had this discussion.
We'll get a calligrapher on staff right away.
That's what it takes. All right. So we have an update from our deputy mayors, Dr. Stock and Dr. Trong.
We will load the PowerPoint? Or?
And it's coming up, there should be a mouse there.
Okay, yeah.
Who's,
Good evening.
who's working the cameras? Do we have somebody who can work them?
Well, there's a.
We could use this.
Okay, but I want a close-up on this because we're going to edit it and put it out. Is there some way to?
We'll have all the footage and we can edit it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because what I'm seeing right now is just a.
You mean on the screen that's going out live right now?
Yeah.
That's done remotely, and I don't know if we can affect that change right now.
Yes, what's the request?
I want a close-up on these guys as they do it so that people, I mean, it's not just for us. Change it back. Yeah, I will. Isn't science wonderful? Look at that. Oh, she's making a phone call. I thought she was doing it on her.
Should we? Can we talk in the meantime? Is that all right? Should we give a report in the meantime?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say, Jonathan has a presentation here, which I'm looking forward to seeing. What I want to say is the Antelope Valley Hospital is busy getting prepared as we're seeing patients currently. We've already set up a task force through hospital leadership, multidisciplinary team approach. We're meeting about every 2 days. We're ahead of the curve compared to other places in LA County, and I think we're just where we need to be. We have not detected any cases at our hospital, nor has the other hospital, which is great. But we have very high vigilance. We have to be continuously vigilant if we're going to avoid breaches, which could lead to healthcare workers contracting the virus or being out of work to see if they're going to get sick or not. So it's an emergency that's slow rolling. It's intense, and everybody is learning every day because the information is coming in from all around the world, from doctors and experiences in other countries, in other states, and it's helping us here to know how to adapt. We also have limitations of resources, especially personal protective equipment like masks, gowns, gloves, other things like that. So we have to be prudent with our resources, but we got to protect our people and we got to protect our patients. We're setting up areas that are healthy and good for patients who don't have signs and symptoms of the disease, as well as patients who might have the disease. We're setting up a separate respiratory triage, which will be up in the next day or two. And so we're doing a separation right at the front and back door to the ER. It starts there and it continues on through your course through the hospital. We're hoping, because we know 80% of the patients do very well, that to see people that are healthy, identify them, reassure them, and let them go home with good instructions recommended by public health, and so because they could take care of themselves unless they really get sick. The other 20% we need to be very careful with. As you know, people can get sick, and some people end up in the ICU needing respiratory support, and people can die. So this is a serious problem, and we're on it. So I'm happy to answer questions when we're done. Thanks.
Just to add, at Palmdale Regional Medical Center, I also chair Infection Control Committee there. And what's happening at AV Hospital is pretty much mirrored at Palmdale, but at a lesser volume and intensity. So we're doing the same thing there as well.
I'll add the information that's been placed on the website for the city is incredibly helpful. What's very important in this is that every citizen knows how to empower themselves and their family, how to care for themselves, how to reduce their own personal risk, and know what your health risks are. You have a different risk if you're young and healthy than if you're older with multiple comorbidities or you're just old. Those are all different things. And also, just the things we put on that we began early on beyond most cities to tell people you don't have to touch each other. You got to wash your hands, keep your hands away from your face, stay away from sick people, and keep social distancing. These are all good things, and we reminded people way ahead of the curve. If you can avoid it, we've heard now that if you're over 60, try and avoid going out and spending too much time, in big crowds and going out to dinner and doing all these things. These are all warnings because we know who's at higher risk of having a bad outcome. So I think the website's been very, very useful and has given solid information on that.
So I presented this to about 80 to 100 physicians in Antelope Valley, to all the infection control staff, a lot of the staff members at both hospitals. I present this same PowerPoint virtually 2 to 3 times a week, depending on whether I can gather ER staff, ICU staff, or just anyone who has who wants to hear. Because the more people who understand, the better we're off. So just a brief summary. It was December 31st, 2019, when Wuhan, China, reported to the WHO that they have a cluster of outbreak, 41 cases of severe acute pneumonia, and patients were a different mix at that time. 73% were males. The median age at that time was younger, 49 years old. All of them, virtually all of them, had abnormal chest X-ray on CAT scans. About 30% of them went straight to acute respiratory syndrome, and the death rate was high at that time, 15%. But that was just the first phase of the infection. The following week, The Lancet published another paper, 99 patients this time, but it was changing a little bit. At this time, the triad came up that's easy to identify. It was fever, cough, and shortness of breath, and severe pneumonia on both lungs. There were some other things that they identified. For example, diarrhea was very rare, like 2%. They had experience with SARS. SARS at that time, if you recall, back in 2003, diarrhea was 1 out of 3 people. Here, this infection is a little bit different. Only 2% had diarrhea illness. And then, of course, the largest study paper came out of China, 70,000 patients they cohorted, and they produced the data. And this is where a lot of our information regarding age and comorbidities came out. 44,000 confirmed cases. The age distribution has changed. 30 to 79 years old was 87%. And nobody under 10 years old. So again, we're not sure why, but children are spared of this infection. So that's good, actually. So other features of this disease, based on that publication, 81% had no pneumonia or very mild pneumonia. So that's reassuring. 14% of patients aged over age 80 had a high case fatality, and 8.9% also 70 to 79 years. About 5 deaths out of the health workers that were infected. This is today's map of WHO. Basically, it summarizes all the cases that's throughout the world. And Europe is now the new China. 90% of new cases are now coming out of Europe, or non-China. So a lot of the travel warnings are now based out of Europe.
Is it burning out of China, or is
yes,
it just...
it's trending down. The new cases are now substantially trending down. It looks like all the classic ways to control an infection, isolation, mitigation, hand washing, is actually working. There's no treatment, but it's working out in China. This is today's slide. This has the 808 total confirmed cases in the United States, 28 deaths, and in California, this is the most recent data from California. I see 24 cases are from repatriation flights, 109 confirmed cases, some kind of relation to travel, 28 cases spread from person to person, and about 19, we don't know where it's coming from. So we think we are now at a stage where you can get infected even if you had no travel history, no contact history, but it's less. The predominance is still some kind of travel history, some kind of contact, confirmed contact. So we worry about mortality. Let's compare this infection to other infections that we know well. For example, the top row there, 2019, this is the virus we're talking about. We're still not sure. Data coming out of Korea, who's more reliable, we think, because they don't have the same press suppression that China is able to do. It looks like it's less than 1% so far. Korea is able to test 10,000, perform 10,000 tests a day, and their mortality rate is pretty low. The other ones, for example, H1N1 influenza. This is from the New England Journal. 0.02 to 0.4, so it's pretty low for influenza. The H7N9 influenza, there was an outbreak which had a mortality of 39%. So it depends on which influenza that occurs, depending on the season. But SARS came out 2003. The mortality rate was about 9.5%. And MERS, that's the Middle East respiratory syndrome, very similar also. It's another coronavirus. That's at 34%. And Ebola is the bad boy, 63%. Almost 2 out of 3 people will die if they get the infection. So in terms of corona, it's on the low side, which is helpful. I'll skip through the virology. I presented this to physicians, so I'll skip through this. But basically, there are 7. If you look at the right side of the screen, there's 7 coronaviruses now identified. 4 are what's circulating throughout the world, which causes a mild respiratory disease, like the common cold. But the other 3, 5, 6, and 7 are now lethal. And it looks like this virus evolves every 10 years. Influenza evolves every 3 to 5 years, so that's why every 3 to 5 years there's a big outbreak. So this one looks like it's every 10 years so far. And it looks like it's very close in RNA match to SARS, almost 90%. Some papers publish up to a 99% match. So it's similar to SARS in many ways. It's got a we think it came from bats. We don't know what the middle animal is, but at least both of them came out of bats. Ebola is also from bats, by the way. So it's transmitted very easily by droplets. So when you sneeze, you have a 6 feet distance. If you can stay away from someone who's sneezing about 6 feet, that reduces your risk. Of course, it stays on objects for 2 to 3 hours. So if you open a door that has the droplet and you touch your face, then you're inoculating yourself. So the advice is wash your hands frequently, don't touch your face. That's another way, and stay away. Give a 6 feet social distance if you can. If you're sick, please wear a mask. Stay home if you can, etc. So those are the same guidelines that you've been seeing. Incubation is 14 days. Most people get sick within 3 to 6 days upon a full-blown inoculation. And we always ask for the triad: fever, cough, and shortness of breath. That's what we look for. Okay, so testing. It uses a technology called PCR, polymerase chain reaction. And basically we get three samples, one from your nose area, one from the throat area, and then a blood sample. And then these are, the testing is done that way. Right now I read that there's only 2 million tests in the United States, and so there's a lot of rationing. I just received an email this morning that we may have capacity to basically order the test without going through the LA County Department of Public Health. But it takes a couple more days to set up. Treatment. There's really no double-blind, placebo-controlled, multi-center trial like what we should be doing. But from the SARS experience, there's a drug called Kaletra, which is a combination drug, lopinavir and ritonavir. I use this drug to treat HIV disease, and it's also an RNA virus. And one study that came out that's been quoted a lot is this one, 41 patients who had SARS, and the group that received SARS received Kaletra, only 2% mortality versus the group that did not receive Kaletra had a 28% mortality. So right now, there's kind of a lot of people are hoarding Kaletra, which is too bad. But we have Kaletra at both our hospitals, at AV Hospital and at Palmdale Regional, in case we need it. Another set of drugs that's been quoted a lot is remdesivir. This one was developed by Gilead to combat Ebola. But in terms of medication and vaccine development, it's hard to develop drugs for these infections because they burn out so quick. SARS came out in November 2012 and basically was finished by May 2013. Most of the Ebola outbreaks, they last 6 months, 8 months. So it's hard to do studies on drugs or on vaccines. But so far, this drug is now available through Gilead. There's a protocol that we go through, our pharmacists go through. If we need it, we call them, we present them the case. They send us the intravenous, and we give it a loading dose and then a continuing dose. And in China, they're using remdesivir to treat empirically all patients they suspect have coronavirus. So CDC guidelines on the right there: stay healthy, avoid contact who are sick, don't touch your eyes, nose, and mouth, stay home if you can, cover your coughs, disinfect frequently objects with sprays and wipes, and wash your hands often, and count 20 seconds. Usually you just do a song in your head, happy birthday to you, or row, row, row your boat, and you should be okay. That's about 20 seconds. And then the California Department of Public Health also has guidelines. And now, given this knowledge about the 70-year-old population, if you have heart disease, diabetes, lung disease, you're at higher risk. So the advice is, if you can, as Dr. Stock mentioned, try not to go to gather in large groups. At our hospital, we don't have meetings of more than 20 people. If it requires more than 20 people, we do Skype or we do tele meetings. Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
Do you see any possibility of it not reaching Lancaster?
Probably not. It's going to be like any pandemic. It should get here, but that's where we got to be ready.
I would add, it was a great presentation. I would say a couple of things from a patient viewpoint. One is this is a little different than the flu. The flu hits you and you feel pretty crummy, like you're going to die, but most people do really well. This, on the other hand, is a slow rumble. You feel achy, you feel viral, feel chills for about a week. And for people who are going to get sicker, about day 8, a lot of people start feeling a little short of breath, and they probably will show up because see their doctor. Day 9, some people who are going to get bad end up in the ICU. So we got to be careful when we send people home, or if people are staying home. Just kind of keep an eye on things for a while. It's not all going to hit you in the first couple days. The other is about testing. So Jonathan mentioned about testing. Right now, I don't know what Palmdale's doing, but AV is testing based on the approval and availability of the Public Health Department of LA County and CDC. Well, Quest and LabCorp are beginning testing around the country. The hospitals are not doing what we want. People that are sick enough to get admitted will get tested, I'm quite sure, because they'll meet criteria. And the CDC has pretty strict criteria. There's 3 flavors. You're either pretty well, but you have a direct contact with someone who's positive. That's a high-risk situation. Or you're sick enough to get admitted, and you have some other epidemiological, like a travel history to Italy or Japan or something. Or the third is you're really sick, you're in the ICU, and you're going to get tested just based on being sick. If you don't meet any of those criteria and you're well enough to go home, you can go see your own doctor, and your medical group or your private doctor can order the test from LabCorp or Quest. It's probably the most efficient way to both trace the results, because it takes 4 days for it to turn around. So the hospital doesn't have a mechanism really to trace all these people, go back to public health. So that's the state of the art at the moment. That could change in the future, though. We're really just getting started on this right now. I would add that some countries, we can learn a lot from a few other countries that are doing. I think if you look to South Korea, they've taken a very interesting approach to this, as well as Taiwan. South Korea, for instance, is testing everyone. They're tracking everyone. They came up with an app that if you walk proximity to somebody with the virus that tested positive, your phone will go off. Okay, so they are, and so they have. If you look at the arc, if you go on the internet and look at the arc of cases, in 20 days they peaked out and started coming back down. So it's amazing. It's worth looking at as an example for our CDC to look at. The second is Taiwan. Taiwan is right next to China, right? They've had one death, right? And because they learned from SARS, so they have a very strong public health approach to this. So we're trying to learn from everybody we can. Italy's going through a tough situation right now. They locked down the whole country, and things are difficult there right now. So there's good examples out there, and we're trying to learn from them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So this is coming from gathering perspective. Do you think the virus is starting to decline in the U.S. also, or is it growing? And the reason why I asked that, I noticed you said public spaces. So I'm a pastor, and Easter is rapidly approaching. That's that's the Christian Super Bowl. So everybody that hasn't been at church usually comes out. We're talking 5 weeks away, literally. So I'm wondering, in the next 5 weeks, do you see it growing, shrinking? Because there's a lot of pastors out there that I've been getting in contact with, and we're trying to tell everybody to do the pound thing because I didn't want the mayor doing the ordinance to stop us from handshaking. So we're trying to do the pound thing, but what do you think about that?
It's probably going to rise. I don't think this will calm down until, if you look at SARS, it was 8 or 9 months later. So if we start the epidemic today, you probably have to wait until August or September to really see any for it to come down. A lot of people are now, a lot of institutions are now doing things online. Berkeley, I was told, that is now switching over to video classes. UCLA, I think, is about to. Harvard, I think, announced that next week it'll start sending the kids home and do everything online. There's that. When this broke out in China, it was in the midst of their New Year celebration. It's like one of the biggest celebrations of the year. Everything was shut down because they didn't want it to spread in large crowds.
I think we're learning new things every day, and to answer your question, you'll have to come up with a drop-dead date where you have to make a decision. I know other religious, the Pope is doing video, gatherings now rather than in real time, so or at least live. So I think what's happening is that when a community gets a case, if you look at the state of Washington, Kirkland, what's going on up there, as soon as there's a case, people suddenly shut down the schools, and take massive measures. I think, under the mayor's leadership, we've tried to stay ahead of this thing. And with information on the website, with what we're doing at the hospitals, we're ahead of things. So the question is, we may not want to wait till there's a case. I think we can learn to see what's going on as we study everything throughout adjoining states and communities. While I don't see any reason to make any changes at the moment, I think we need to look at it day by day. And between, as we move forward through this thing.
One word about infectiousness. This one, influenza infects one person, can infect 1.8 people. Coronavirus, 2.2. Ebola, 3.3. The worst is measles. We know measles. 1 to 16. One measles case will infect 16 people. So just the understanding the flavor that this is really contagious, but really there are other more contagious pathogens around. So,
I just want to be clear with you guys. We're relying on you to tell us when to start doing draconian measures, and I'll do them. I can declare a state of emergency, and once I do that, we can start doing whatever we need to do. But I don't want to do that based upon what I read in the LA Times. I want to do it based upon what you tell me. And so I just want to clear the level of responsibility that we're placing in your hands is pretty extensive. I'm concerned about if the hospital's not letting people, over 20 people meet. What does that mean to the rest of us? Does the city have a plan to go online if we have to?
Yeah, I'm looking in now into what we can and can't do under the Brown Act to make sure we're fully compliant and to make sure that we also don't spread disease if and when it arrives.
Okay, good.
I would say things that where you're making a personal decision at this point. If people, we discuss if people are having vacation plans to go on cruises, I would postpone that cruise. If you are planning on taking a flight for anything that's not of dire importance, I would postpone that travel if you could at this point. Everyone's going to make have risk things as far as schools and things. We've discussed. The state of California just came out with guidelines about mass gatherings, universities and schools. I think 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and the city has that information, and we will have to look at the situation, and we'll tell you our honest opinion as things evolve.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Recognizing that we're the aerospace capital of the world, this is the new handshake in Lancaster as of now. So if you don't know how to do it, you should start practicing. I did, didn't I? It's really hard. But I got hand sanitizer, dude.
You went to Costco early.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there any other questions?
What's that?
Transporter.
That's an IQ meter.
You didn't hear it, did you?
Okay. So, I'll call on anybody in the audience that has a question. Yeah, Fran?
You mentioned, is this caused, you said by bats?
It originated from bats, yes.
What about the bats that are here in our own country? How are they affected in any way?
I haven't seen any reports that the bats in this country carry coronavirus, but I've seen that the bats carry a lot of rabies.
Right, yeah, I realize that.
Yes.
And how can the human being affect the rats? Not the rats, you said rats, the bats. In other words, can the bats get the disease from a human and then transport it elsewhere?
I haven't seen that. Oh, yes. Can a human infect a bat and then the bat transport the corona somewhere else? I haven't seen that report either. Good question.
The least of the worries we should have is the bats. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I had an observation, and the doctors could probably bear me out. I was just in the bathroom, and our low-flow water system is not advantageous to washing your hands. You have to hold a button with one thing, and it took me a long time to even get the soap off because of the pressure of the water. So if you washed up for surgery, you have to have some pressure of that water. And it just is a point that I realized just now about our bathrooms. They're not really conducive to handling.
I think you can use your elbows. You use the ATM, use your knuckles. You don't have to use your... this part of your hands is the part that's probably the most dangerous. So, right? I mean, I think that's one way to go.
If you have a question, yes.
My question is there anything that we can take to boost our immune system that can help prevent catching it to begin with?
The question is there anything that we can take to boost our immune system? Generally, there are no good studies showing that whether it's vitamin C or anything like that it boosts your immune system. A lot of people take vitamin C because there was a couple of studies back in the 70s that says high dose vitamin C, about 2 grams or more, can help reduce infections, but those studies have not borne out. The same thing with coenzyme Q or all the other herbal products. There's no good studies. But if it's not harmful, if it's inexpensive, we don't not recommend it. But there's no good double-blind, placebo-controlled, classical studies.
I would just say that most people feel that if they're not getting adequate sleep, they're under a lot of stress, they're probably a little more at risk for getting sick in general. And so staying healthy, eating well, sleeping well, taking care of yourself is probably a good policy.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of the city, we want to thank you. I mean, you guys aren't getting paid for this. We get emails every couple days from you, keeping us advised. We're extremely appreciative of this, and the community should be extremely appreciative of what you're doing. We actually are able to take a proactive stance rather than waiting for somebody to come rescue us. Okay, thank you. City manager, anything to be removed?
No, sir.
So our chair for the Housing Authority is not here. Who's the vice chair?
I am.
You are. What is this infatuation you have with this word vice? I mean,
It's better than sitting in that other chair. You get rocks thrown out when you get there. Okay, we do have a speaker card for the HANB1. Fran, did you want to talk before, or do you want to hear the presentation and then talk?
Yes, please.
You want to hear the presentation?
Please. Thank you.
Okay, Shannon?
do I have to leave?
You can, because you are not a decision maker on this board.
But I don't have to?
You can stay if you prefer.
You don't. You can stay.
I can stay. Okay.
Yeah, you don't impact that.
It's hard to. I guess I read lips more than I think I do.
Sorry, I know it's a challenge.
Vice Chair Christ, Housing Authority members, tonight we're asking you to consider an assignment and subordination for the next phase of Kensington campus. As you're aware, we are in the process of building through Insight Development on a Housing Authority property 306 units of housing to accommodate the homeless needs in the city of Lancaster. This is a routine administrative procedure that will allow the next phase to secure financing and ultimately be constructed.
Fran?
I'll just speak from here if you don't mind.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
I can try.
Did you mention 350 more units are going to be built?
No, 306 total.
306 more apartment units?
Sorry.
Yeah. Stay on the mic, and if you want to repeat her question.
Absolutely. Ms. Saras asked...
Wait a minute. Don't listen to him. I'm in charge here.
My apologies, Vice Chair. Fran asked how many units would be involved in this. So there are 306 total units at Kensington campus. This is the next phase of development.
For those 306?
Yes. No, this is not more. That's the total number. So this is part of that. Yes.
Okay, my next question would be is what's going to happen after the money's run out? We have on we have 4 years, 5 years left on the homeless initiative that we have funding for. So what's going to happen to the funding after the initiative is over?
Friend, we got a great supervisor. That supervisor's taking good care of us, and hopefully we're going to get all the money that we need by that time. If not, we'll make other arrangements by then. But we're fighting for that money, and the supervisor's helping us as much as she can. So we're in good shape.
Okay. How long is it going to take to finish the project? How long is it going to take to finish the project? Because we're barely just starting really right now, right?
Friend, we're never going to finish the project.
It's going to keep going.
It's going to keep going, and we're going to keep trying to help as many people as possible.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Russell Rodenbacher. Shannon, will you raise that for him, please?
Hello. I was here a month ago to talk to the City Council, about the funding of Kensington and answer some questions or have some answers for the costs. That was brought up, and I talked about that, and after you guys refuted some of the numbers. I have looked into the spa, and one of the things I am trying to advocate for is a Dream Center type facility up here. Nobody's wanted to talk to me about it in the City Council or the mayor. I am going to be talking to the Homeless Commission about it also. During that time, you sort of initiated that in SPA 4 was the Dream Center, and that Dream Center must be getting funds for this because SPA 4 gets all this money. This is from, just real quick here, in the Antelope Valley, we have a homeless population from 2019 of 3,293 people. We have funding from Measure H for this year, the fiscal year of 2019 and 20 of $11,646,408 for a total of $3,536, which is a greater amount than what you had mentioned.
Don't confuse the spas with the propositions. The spas come under LASA. So LASA funds the spas and the propositions fund the county. So don't confuse the two.
Well, I'm just bringing up what actual funds have been set aside.
But that's when we talk about SPA 1, SPA 4, those monies come from the federal government, which are LASA funded. So that's where we're underfunded as far as through LASA.
I mean, I'd love to see that information on that. Like I said, a lot of numbers are thrown around, but yet the information's not brought to back that up. Even Mr. Mann and Mr. Doris were at the NAACP, I guess, debate or whatever that they had. And at that meeting, you guys, Mr. Mann noted that there was going to be 900 to 1,000 beds at Kensington, which we know is not correct. It's 306. And Mr. Doris, you reinforced that later when somebody else was speaking. You said 300 to 946.
I think you're a little mistaken on that, and I'm not on this.
Oh,
but
it's
on the video. I know it's on the video.
It's recorded.
We said 306.
No, that is not what you said.
Okay, Russell, do you have a statement to
well, I'm asking for a moratorium of 6 months to be put into look.
This is the time that you can make a statement. You have 3 minutes to make a statement to us, not necessarily grill everything. We can set up an appointment. I'd be glad to sit down with you, and we can look at the different funding opportunities.
Okay.
Okay.
But what I'm looking for is programs that are going to meet the most people and to make a difference in homelessness. Like I said, one of the issues is it's a growing number. And until we address that growing number and get that, just like the pandemic, until that number stops growing, we're not going to see a reduction. And right now, we don't have a program for that growing number. The people that are about to come homeless are the people that are newly homeless or that have problems with addictions.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Toy, correct me if I'm wrong, but out of all the spas that were out there, ours increased the least as far as the number of homeless. I mean, we had some in the 20% range, and ours only increased 3%?
That is correct. In fact, Lancaster decreased. The majority of the increase was in the unincorporated LA County area, and that is where the supervisor, as well as the cities, are trying to put their focus for the unincorporated to respond.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I need a motion and a second for HANB1, A and B.
I'll make a motion to approve in HANB1, both A and B.
So I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote. Motion passes unanimously with Kitty Zato absent. I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Mayor Paris.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes from last week?
So moved.
Meeting?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Consent calendar. Anything we need to pull?
We need to pull CC4. I'll move that we accept the consent calendar and approve the consent calendar as comprised, pulling CC4.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Let's vote. Passes unanimously. CC4. Oh, okay. So, who's presenting? Do we need to do a presentation on it?
No, just let him speak.
Okay. Well, then we only get one side.
Good evening, Mayor Paris, Vice Mayor Chris, members of the council. CC4 is basically to award Phase 3 of the trails to Bowie contractors. We went out to bid, and they were the lowest responsible bidder. And so basically what we're doing now is awarding, with the council approval, we'll be awarding the process for Phase 3 of the trails for the new 20.3 acres that we purchased about a year or so ago to continue those trails and add another 4,200 linear feet of trails to the existing trail system.
Don? You got to be in favor of that, Don, right?
Mr. Pierce and council, thank you for your services. This is going to be kind of an unusual presentation. And as you know, Mr. Mayor, you challenged me a year or so ago to raise $1 million to buy the 20 acres, and I said, you betcha we can. And that was done. And along with the help of what the city put in, I thank you for that. And this is the results of what has come about since the approval and the purchase of that 20.6 acres, 20.5, I'm sorry. Number one, we put in a temporary fence. Antelope Valley Audubon paid for that. And number two, we did several cleanups. We hauled out thousands and thousands of pounds of trash out of the 21 acres. Number three, we put on an air race at Cal City, and we did a fishing derby for the young people. We give out about $2,500 in prizes on that. We brought about the prosecution of illegal removal of bird habitats and nesting. And by the way, that's the first time that's ever been done. We're working with Palmdale on their 30-year planning in the Amargosa Creek. We've raised money to put water in Holiday Lake for 2 years straight at the tune of about $30,000. We worked with the community of Neenac to picking up over 1,500 tires and cleaning up trash along the 138. We lobbied in Sacramento for the grant of Grant 68. And by the way, Lancaster needs more of that kind of money. We stopped the killing of hawks in Lake LA, and at present we are working on a program to clean up Lake LA, which is looking real good. Plus a few other problems that escape my mind due to age, but it's happening.
Marvin understands that.
Knowing who I sit next to.
But the main project is the development of the program that has been approved by the Board of Education to have classes in the schools within Antelope Valley. And the program is absolutely phenomenal. We've had 3 classes in the county library. The last class we had was Saturday. We had 51 participants. And in those classes, we teach birding conservation to young people. It was extremely well preserved, and they want us to continue doing that program. Then the educational program that we're taking to the schools, the first one is planned for April the 21st at the Nancy Corey School. And what we're going to be doing is taking the children from the Corey School over to the Elsie Center, put them down in a classroom structure, breaking them up into groups of 8, walking them through the preserve, teaching about conservation, why it's important that we preserve that kind of property within our community. Because unfortunately, they're not doing it in the schools, and it's very, very important that we educate our young people for tomorrow. And that's what this program is about. Dr. Collins, a very, very highly educated doctor, she's designed programs for this that are phenomenal. They even are better than the Audubon national programs. And as I say, the first one's going to be on the 21st of April at the Nancy Corey School. We're working on programs in Lake LA, which is disastrous. We stopped the killing of a few birds out there. They were killing the hawks and the kestrel for sport, which is against the law, both federally and state. So anyway, these are the things that we have done, a few of the things that we have done since you helped us buy the 21 acres. And for that, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Are they prosecuting anybody for the hawks?
I beg your pardon?
Are they prosecuting anybody for the hawks?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that's a serious crime in a lot of states.
Well, believe it or not, it's the first time it's ever been prosecuted in the United States. And there was a hearing on it today.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And we started this prosecution in January of last year, getting it through the district attorney's office and through the Fish and Wildlife. Was the worst fight I've ever fought in my life. But it's happening. And we're not prosecuting because of prosecuting. We're prosecuting because of education. Since 1970, we have lost 2.9 billion, not million, billion birds of various reasons, but mostly by man, and the loss of habitat and preservation of the wildlife. That's a big loss. And that's going to affect our future. It's going to affect our children, and that's what I'm here to protect.
Thank you. Is the city helping you, Don? Is the city helping you advertise these things and the city website and all that, all the things?
I might add that Mr. Campbell and my favorite lady back there. I tried to get a date with her. She keeps turning me down.
Wait a minute. We're not allowed to say those things anymore.
Parks and Recreation have been extremely good with us, working with us. We have a program coming up in May called Bird Fest, and we'll be bringing in live animals, teaching programs within the Elsie Center, and taking the public and children through the preserve to educate and bring more attention to the preserve, because in my opinion, for the amount of money that has been spent on the preserve, we're not getting enough people to enjoy it. There's a lot of people using it. So we're trying to develop programs to develop more activity within the preserve. And it is our hope that eventually we treat it as a preserve, not a park, because there's a big, big, big difference. Sure. We've done a few things out there that I know that the city probably doesn't like or doesn't know about. We put benches out there. Last year we put kestrel hawk nests out there, and we had, first time ever, a pair of kestrel hawks breed at the preserve, and they had 3 chicks. This year those 3 chicks are back out in the preserve, which is extremely exciting.
Ignorance can be bliss.
Yes, it is.
Don't tell us what we don't should know. Okay.
But there's still.
We're actually entrusting you guys with this, and it's yours to create, and we're here to be a conduit for that, not an obstacle.
Personally, I feel that I've got about 10 years left in my life, and I've dedicated it to the preservation of that, and developing it and spreading it wider, and bringing more education. Because it's a fabulous place for the city. And by the way, it's the only place that is in the desert where they teach desert preservation. And that's very important.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Motion to approve CC4.
Second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. New business, item 1. Should we waive the presentation? Unless you have a burning desire. No, we'll waive it. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve NB1.
Second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Council reports. Anything?
Myself, Toy, and she's laughing at me. Her staff, I know my wife will kill me for saying that. The staff and I, we were just recently at the Homeless Initiative, 4th Annual Homeless Initiative. And Kensington was a big highlight. Matter of fact, the governor staff praised Lancaster for what they were doing and with the insights of what we're doing, Mr. Mayor and Council. They was just extremely excited at the approach that we were taking. There's also a lot more money that they're trying to get down the pipeline, about $3 billion. So there's a lot of things that's going on. We spent about maybe 4 or 5 hours. I left a little earlier, but Toy and her staff stayed around, had a great time. So there's a lot of the faith-based cities, the different community stakeholders, they're all coming together to try to help tackle this. And I am very proud of what Lancaster is doing, at the approach that we're taking. It's being noticed throughout all of California what we're doing here in the city of Lancaster. So had a great time.
Thank you.
Just reminding everyone, the State of the City tomorrow at the Lancaster Chamber of Commerce at the Hellenic Center. It's at 11:30. So the State of the City is then. Otherwise, it's been a quiet week.
If you're over 60, I invite you not to attend. I mean, I have to, but otherwise I wouldn't.
Are you sick?
No, I'm over 60. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true.
Ken's over 80.
Ken's not over 80. He's just on the cusp.
I thought he was like 2 years younger than you.
You see what he implies.
You know, Marvin, you're creating a hostile work environment for elderly people, isn't it?
Kind of.
You know, I also believe the mechanism to file a complaint is HUD, so maybe we might want to do that, huh?
You know, last time we dealt with HUD, it was really expensive. Let's just stay with ignorance is bliss in regards to HUD.
Okay, we can tolerate Marvin.
Okay. All right, thank you. Moving on. Energy Authority, no action. Financing Authority, no action. Power Authority, no action. City Manager, any announcements?
No announcements. I just want to reiterate what the city's doing with regard to the coronavirus. Our emergency operations team is working very closely with the deputy mayors, as well as we have an epidemiologist that is advising us. So we are very close and focused on what's going on, and we are prepared from a city perspective, staff perspective, to do whatever it takes to keep the community safe, take their direction, and implement your wishes. So I just want to reiterate that. It's very important to us.
You know, I think we should recognize we're going to be losing people, but, you know, let's minimize it as best we can. And that brings me to you, Allison. Allison, you are welcome to attend by Skype.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I may do that as my treatments go forward. Thank you.
Good. And I think we ought to also deal with city staff, anybody who's compromised. Let's figure out a way to let them go home now, you know, work from home if they can, if it's possible. I'd like to get through this without losing anyone. Probably not going to happen, but, you know, let's see what we can do. All right? City Clerk.
This is the time to address the City Council Agency Authority on non-agendized matters. Speaker cards may be found on the back table of the council chambers. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. State law prohibits the City Council from taking action on items not on the agenda, and your matter may be referred to the City Manager. Thank you.
You know, that's a good idea. We should get you a portable mic so you don't have to, you know. All right. Fran, you're up.
It was the mayor's idea.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
God bless you. Good evening, Mayor Paris, Vice Mayor Chris.
Great staff. I mean, just honored.
Oh, you do have a great staff. Yes, you do. And council member, staff, and everybody here. Thank you for listening to me. My name is Fran Saris. I just want to, there again, thank you all. for what you do.
Thank you.
I also want to, now that this preserve is, the Prime Desert Preserve, thank you a lot for that, because we need something for our kids so they can see what's going on in the desert, so I learn the animals, because there's not enough training and not enough education in the schools on this subject. And I thank you for what you're doing, and thank you, the gentleman behind me. God bless them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David Paul.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, good evening. I just have this feeling that this is a changed moment in our country, in our city, in the world. We're really into areas where if I said I knew it was going to happen, I'd probably be wrong. So, but I'm confident we're going to do our best, and I really appreciate that. Things will change, and I just want to take this moment to tell a few of the stories that I've never been able to tell before, knowing not what will come. But I want to thank some people. Our fantastic Deputy Mike Cooper out there, he did me a strong service one time that I cannot speak enough about. And it's funny because Captain Weber, you probably know the affection and admiration I had for Fender, Lieutenant Fender, and the way that all started out was with him and me almost knocking heads. So, you can have disputes, you can have differences, and then you find the things that unite you. And I just love that guy, and I hope you know that, and you too, sir. And Sully, thank you so much. Donna, thank you so much for all the kindness you've shown me. My two Jeffs here, thank you, men, for listening to what I've said. I've actually felt like you listened to me. Toy, you're amazing. I go around here and I see all these faces. And I got to tell one funny story about Ken Mann. When I first saw Ken Mann, this is probably 15 years ago in City Council chambers, I said, what is Harry Reid doing in Lancaster? And then I got to know him, and he's a great guy. We exchanged flowers. And Cassandra Harvey, thank you so much, my dear, for being so kind to my children the day we painted the homeless shelter over there on Martin Luther King Day. That was a moment we still talk about that. And everybody else here that I've had something to do with. Jocelyn, Allison, thank you. I've noted significant portions of kindness. And I feel grateful to live here. I feel grateful for the opportunity to come over and get a meal at Raj's restaurant. I still intend to do that, sir. Thank you. And we have incredible people. Fran, my friend, isn't she great? I mean, she just doesn't stop, and she exemplifies what we need in this city. And the people that come, they come, and they do what they do. And we all got to get along, and I'm grateful that we're all in this together, and I am grateful that I get to continue to live here. Thank you all.
That's it.
Any comments from the council?
I'm good.
Short meeting. No closed session? That's good.
No closed session.
Thank you. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, March 24, 2020 at 5 p.m. Carol, my day is done and I'm coming home.